Hey everybody, this is Cassandra. This is part 2 of the broccoli and cheese casserole. So this is what it looks like after you get it together. Now, you're going to bake this at 350 degrees Fahrenheit until the cheese is bubbly. That's when you know it's done. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a time frame. I'm going to say between 20 and 25 minutes. So that's it. You've got the entire recipe and the instructions in part 1, and I ran out of time, so I apologize. Now, I'm not going to cook this right away because, as you all know, today's Monday, Thanksgiving's not till Thursday. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some aluminum foil, and I'm going to securely wrap it. And I'm going to put this in my refrigerator until Thursday morning. Thursday morning, when I get up, I'm going to go ahead and set it out on the counter and get ready to bake it off right before I serve my Thanksgiving dinner. I always like to put 2 sheets of aluminum foil. I started doing that years ago when I realized that it's just safer for the food and it really stops anything from falling on it or leaking in it. So I just double mine. And I secure it really good along the rim, like this, to the point that you can actually see the imprint of my casserole dish. And I just really do it hard. And this will keep in the freezer. You can freeze it, or you can keep it in the refrigerator, which is what I do. I just put it in the refrigerator. I clear off one rack in my refrigerator, and that's where all my casseroles that I make ahead of time, my pasta salads that I make ahead of time for Thanksgiving, everybody knows that's off limits until Thanksgiving Day. And it's very hard to pry my daughter away from this because this is her favorite thing. So what I was saying earlier, you guys, in part 1, I wasn't trying to bring you down. I want you to be lifted up, and I want you to know that you are loved and you are special. And I wanted to share a little bit about me with you so you can kind of know who I am, because I don't know about y'all, but maybe I'm just weird this way, but when I follow people on social media, if I find that they're not mentally stable, or if they're an unfriendly person, if they're really not a good person, I will unfollow them in a minute. I don't hesitate because life is just too short. So I'm trying to let you a little bit about my history and, things that I've went through and how I feel about certain things, so that I'm an open book to you. That way you can feel good about who you're following. So what I was trying to say is, when I was a real little girl, when you're a kid, you don't know no better. You don't know that the adults are fighting, You don't know that they're just being petty and dramatic. All you're thinking about is candy, good food, and presents. What's my Christmas baby doll going to look like? Because I've always loved dolls, right? But as I got older, you start realizing how people behave. You start to become your own person, and you're like, I would never raise my kids the way, that I've watched my aunt or uncle raise their kids, or my mother, how she raised me and my brother and sister. You start to develop these independent decisions, and you break generational curses. And I would watch my grandma cry her eyes out. She would sit in her the recliners. I don't know if you guys and gals remember back in the 80s and 90s how popular recliners were, especially for the older people, and that you could push back on them and they would lay out. She loved her recliner, and she'd sit and rock in that recliner, and she would cry her eyes out because she would work so hard, and she was such a great cook, and her home was so tastefully designed. It was so tastefully decorated. Her house was always spotless. She was really a good woman, and she did not deserve the treatment that she got. Now, by seeing that and just watching her, and there was nothing I could do but just sit there and hold her hand, I would just look at her. I would just stare at her, and my heart would break as she went through a box of tissues. And I made a promise to myself that me and my kids would never go through that. And after she passed away, my relatives were very, very mean to me and my kids. I even heard people were saying to me that other people that were supposed to be pillars of the family, saying that I was a burden because I was a poor single mother, that I would beg people for gas money just to come see them. And I would say, I'm sorry, but I worked in a furniture factory, and I was a single mother of 2 children. And when my daughter was born, my son's father, he stopped paying child support. So here I was with 2 kids, no child support whatsoever, because my daughter was not, my kids have 2 separate fathers, okay? And I know you're probably thinking, wow, that was a shitty thing to do. And honestly, it was. But you know what? I got over it, and I just dealt with it. And I didn't take him to court because I was too busy working. I worked 12 hours a day in a furniture factory. So all of my money would go to bills. I never got food stamps because I worked. I literally had a food stamp worker tell me that if I quit my job, I could get like $500 worth of food stamps a month. I said, okay, well then how am I supposed to pay my light bill, my rent, my car payment, my car insurance? How am I supposed to buy my kids the things they need? So she literally told me that. And so I never got food stamps, never got any type of free housing because I chose to work. It was just a nightmare. It was a nightmare of a lifestyle. It was such a struggle. And when I found out that my relatives were putting me down because I would call them and say, I really want to come for Thanksgiving because me and the kids are all alone, and I would love to, bring a dish, but will you please help me with some gas money? Because I've got to have money to get to work, and I said my whole paycheck went for bills and to buy food. And when I found out that they were making fun of me as well as putting me down, I realized that I was better than them, even though they had a lot more money than me. They had beautiful, fine homes. They drove brand new cars, but they would want to put me down. I would never do that to anybody in my family, especially if I knew they were struggling, working in a furniture factory, taking care of her 2 children, or if it was a guy, by themselves and nobody to help them. I would not say a word. I would say, if you can get here, I'll fill your car up and I'll give you $40 to go on. That's just the type of person that I am. So when these things were being said about me, and then, they thought I was ugly. They said that my hair was too big and my makeup was too much, and I just wanted to look pretty, So when I found out all these things, I stayed away from my toxic relatives. And I got to be honest, it's the best thing that I've ever done in my life. Do you want to know why? Because I became an even better person. I stopped struggling. I moved up in life. And y'all have seen my hair. I don't think my hair's ugly. Y'all have seen my makeup. You've seen me in person, when I make videos. You can tell me. If you think I'm ugly, you can tell me. I don't care. But when I stayed away from everyone, and then I got gossiped about because I didn't have the money to buy my relatives Christmas presents when we would get together for Christmas. Because, again, I was a single mother, and I had to get my kids' Christmas first. They couldn't appreciate just us being together. When I stopped going to my relatives' houses, I was so much better off. And you will be too. Make your own memories. Love you. Happy Thanksgiving.